Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a really special episode for you, one that's kind of been a long time coming. I am actually going to be comparing kind of the best and the boldest dive straps for you, specifically rubber dive straps. Kind of the competitors to the benchmark IsoFrane, and I think I got some pretty good range here. I mean, of course, there are some other options that are out there, but this particular grouping I think fit kind of the right aesthetic as well as capabilities, and I think they are both very comparable to the IsoFrane, and if not better in many ways. So before we get too much into it, I'll just talk a little bit about the background of this. I know that there are many options out there as far as dive straps go, and some people don't even want it in rubber, let alone in orange. But I felt that the orange rubber dive strap is something that's very iconic, and I thought that it would just be a really fun video to kind of compare and contrast some of the more expensive straps. I know, there are other options out there that are much cheaper, more cost effective, and basically, I don't think anybody really has questions about those, but I do think when you're going to spend, upwards of $100 to $130, you probably want to make sure that what you're getting is quote unquote worth it. So that's kind of my motivation for making this video. And as far as the choices, of course I wanted to go for something that was definitely more tool oriented, not just for aesthetics, but something that had very functional design as well. So that's why I kind of chose these offerings. So of course we do have the staple in the segment, which would be the IsoFrane dive strap. But we also have from Hirsch the Extreme strap, which has been a pretty big forum favorite as far as comparisons go in this kind of higher end dive strap range. And then I also have from CrafterBlue, a newcomer who actually does specialize in making straps for Seikos. Which I think that what they offer is very comparable to the high-end straps, and it only costs about less than, well, about $50. I mean, it's just, there's no other way to say it. About for $50 you have a strap that's pretty comparable to straps that cost upwards of $100. So the kind of that $130 range. With the IsoFranes, and then with the Hirsch strap, those also can be in the $130 range. I've even seen them go higher, but it looks like there is some changes kind of in their pricing structure, and you can actually get them directly from Hirsch right now for right about $85. I don't know if they have all the colors available, if they're just clearing old stock or what, so you'll have to kind of check that out on your own. But there are definitely other buying options that are out there. Holblin's carries the Hirsch Extreme as well, and I think they have them for like $115. So there's quite a few different options that are out there for purchasing. But let's go ahead and get into the actual straps themselves. So of course, before that, the watch we're going to use for this kind of demo is going to be the Armida A2, actually the A1, the Armida A1 in 42mm stainless steel. It has the NH35 movement. Go ahead and look through my channel. Actually, you know what? I'll just go ahead and put the link to the original review of this watch down in the description. So if you are interested in a full review just on the watch itself, go ahead and follow that link. Well, in the meantime, let's go ahead and zoom out and take a closer look at these straps and kind of what they have to offer. All right. So I don't actually have any of these connected right now, and I don't have the spring bars in, because what I wanted to do is kind of just be able to visually slide them in and out so you guys can see, and then, I can do basically go off camera and put them on, put the straps onto the watch and then actually get wristwatch checks. But let's go ahead and just start off with the buckle sides, and we can start with the Hirsch. So the Hirsch strap definitely had, it has extreme in the name. It's a more extreme design. As you can see, it actually has these almost shark-like fins here that do offer a great amount of flexibility. The rubber, as you can see, is very soft and pliable, really well molded. I'd have to say this has the most contours out of, you know, all the offerings here. You can see there's a rounded spine there. This dips in, and then it's flat, and then you have, of course, these ridges, which make for a very comfortable wear. But then, of course, there is some heft and there is some bulk there to be aware of as well. As far as the buckle goes, it's very, very standard. Nothing to write home about, but definitely gets the job done. Now, from CrafterBlue, we actually have some, starting with the hardware. Really nice hardware here, with the signed buckle underneath. And then, of course, you do have the steel keeper, which is very nice. And then you do have basically their cutouts here. And it's not merely for aesthetics. The cutouts are actually because if this was solid, it would actually be a lot harder to bend, because as you can see, it is thicker on this end versus when it tapers down to over here. And to better illustrate that, you can get a better idea here on the long end. As you can see there, it does taper down quite dramatically. And then if we compare just this end to that end, you can see there's quite a difference in thickness. So of course this is going to be more pliable here, and then of course it also does have cutouts for the clasp itself, the buckle. So that's something to think about. And this actually does have a really nice taper, as you can see, which I think adds to the comfortability on the wrist, and also looks really nice too. This also has a mild taper, 22 down to 20, and I think you probably just can't really tell just because of there's kind of so much going on with the strap as far as the silhouette goes. Maybe on this side you can kind of see that it does taper down pretty well right here, and then this is kind of more straight edge. There's a slight taper right here, but then but really nice from the Hirsch Extreme. Then of course the benchmark, the legend, the IsoFrane. Now these just get so much play, and so they're so highly regarded. You kind of can't go wrong with one. These have the street cred. They are quite a bit more expensive, and a lot of it does have to do with the name, because at this point, honestly, they're you know, production wise, there are a lot of companies that are able to produce straps that are just like these. I wouldn't say you know, to the exact quality, but very, very close. I mean, one of the huge things you can see here that really sings as far as the quality goes is you can see that, well, I should say it's not being able to really see the seam, right? Like you can tell there's a seam there, but it's just very even, and it's not like it's flared up in certain spots. So, and then of course, very high definition finish there. Everything around here is just really precisely done, finely molded and cut and trimmed, so just really nice. And then of course, hardware wise, it does have the screw-in hardware and is very, very sturdy and really, really nicely done, beautifully brushed. Unfortunately, there is not a taper on it, which is kind of a bummer for me, but as you can see, it's still definitely very high quality and worthy of a lot of praise. And you can kind of see why this is kind of the blueprint for many other dive straps that are out there, because it's such an iconic look, and at the same time it's also you know, very functional and has a ton of street cred as well. So let's go ahead and split these off here. Ooh. And let's just kind of take a quick look at what these look like, just pushed in here, just kind of quickly to give you an idea of what these look like. So as you can see on the CrafterBlue, I think it definitely looks really nice. One of the nice things is also, you know, it does have the more noticeable taper on here, which is really nice, and I feel just adds that kind of level of refinement. You know, at first these larger cutouts were kind of a turnoff, just because I'm more used to the traditional IsoFrane look. You know, normally when people kind of go for the IsoFrane look, they really just go for it, and try to pretty much make it as close of a copy as possible. CrafterBlue wanted to do something a little bit different, and also it does, again, have a lot to do with them just being a little bit more thought out when it comes to having that flexibility there. As you can see, very thick, but because of the cutouts, you get great flex. So you can wrap that around your wrist really well. So just kind of flat look at it. You know, the tone of orange I think is really nice. It's more of a brighter tone, less reddish. I'd say probably in order of the tones, it would be something like this, with probably the most reddish tone being the IsoFrane, then more of a true orange here with the Hirsch, and then more of on the yellow side of orange for the CrafterBlue. So definitely I think it fares well, and then for the price it's pretty insane. And then also, of course, you do get that nice stainless steel hardware, which is great. So let's go ahead and pop these out, and let's take a look at this on the Hirsch strap. Now that definitely adds a whole new look to it. I think especially as it's laying there, it looks really, really great. And if you've seen pictures online, that's probably the way you've seen them, is it just kind of laying down. Looks really cool. What you will see is on wrist, it does, I mean, to me at least, it doesn't maintain kind of as good of a look. I think it definitely looks great laid out like this, but on the wrist, it does add a noticeable amount of bulk kind of in these areas here as you flex. And then as you can see, really nice keeper here. It has a 2 keeper setup, kind of one that's going to be static with some little contours that are actually cut in and molded into the strap on this end here. And then we have the sliding keeper here. So really nice. This definitely has, I'd say, the most of a sheen to it as far as the finish goes. It's be the least porous. I would say the IsoFrane is probably more porous, more matted, and then with the CrafterBlue being more of a satiny tone, and then this kind of above satin, near gloss finish on here, which is definitely interesting. As you can see, the way the light hits it versus the way the light hits these, there's definitely more of a sheen to this, and I think it looks really good. It's not necessarily super, you know, tying into the theme here for this watch because it's mostly matted and satinized, but I think the way that it catches the light, of course, it has more contours to it. It's just overall a very appealing looking strap. And of course, one of the nice things is the thickness. So if you have a thicker watch, you know, of course, most divers are relatively thick. So if you have a thicker watch, I think it actually does look pretty nice too on the side profile if you want to take a look there. And then of course, once I get these on wrist, but we'll go ahead and just kind of get a visual check here, how it looks on the IsoFrane. So now because it doesn't taper, it almost actually makes the case look smaller, if you notice. Because there's just more meat and more heft there, there's just less of a contrast of when it kind of tapers down to make it feel just a little bit, I would say, proportionate. I think now it feels a little bit small compared to the strap itself. I still think it looks definitely great, and it feels pretty great on the wrist. I think it is a bit thick, and that's one of the kind of the improvements I feel like where the Hirsch and the CrafterBlue have a little bit of an edge as far as comfort goes. So now that you've seen those here, let's go ahead and get these mounted, and we can actually start with the IsoFrane. I know I said I'd probably do this off camera, but let's just try and see if we can get these on here relatively quick, and then maybe we won't have to do any cutting away. We can just get this knocked out here. It does have drilled lugs, which is nice, which does help with the install. So for those of you who maybe haven't really swapped straps before, maybe it's just kind of good to have that on camera. So as you can see, really nice. I think it has a great profile from the side, but the main point of getting it mounted was, oh, let me wipe off a little bit of the dust there. The main point of getting it mounted is to get it on wrist. So let's go ahead and start with the benchmark now and see how this fits. So really nice feature here. So you do have the dual keepers and you do have this angled one there. So you can actually pull that down, as you can see here, and it actually does line up with the curvature of the end of the strap there, which is pretty nice. If I can get it to focus. There we go. So I think that's really nice and a nice touch, very cohesive. As you can see, it does add quite a bit of bulk down here in this area, but you know, I think it's still very comfortable. I think it definitely would be more comfortable with a taper there, because basically you have 22mm diameter all the way through. But you know, very supple and soft. Probably if I wore it more, it'd probably be more broken in by now. But you know, I actually wear this watch mostly on the bracelet. So the IsoFrane strap definitely, as far as fit and finish goes, this thing is beautiful. I mean, just beautifully done. You're not going to see really any, you know, irregularities in it. The color is just fantastic. And then the finishing basically is really where you get that extra, where what you get what you pay for, right? So really nice from that standpoint. Great on the wrist. Let's go ahead, and since this has drilled lugs, we can go ahead and pop these guys out. So now, if you don't know, here's one of the great benefits of having drilled lugs. Alrighty. So now let's move on to the Hirsch. Oops, missed it. Get it, kind of wiggle it around, let it find the hole. There we go. Get this side in, then I'll give the crystal another wipe off camera as soon as I get this in. Definitely glad I didn't wear gloves, although it would have saved me from smudges. Switching these back and forth is definitely easier without the gloves on. So as you can see, I think really what's the nice thing is that just you have so many details here in the strap and the texture. But you know, finishing wise, it's not quite as cleanly finished here as you'll see on the IsoFrane. There's definitely more of the creases you can see. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is really sharp and beautifully done. The molding, the lettering here, and the branding all looks really, really great. But you know, there is more of telltale signs of kind of that molding there. One of the really nice features though is that it does just add more visual interest. You have more going on, even from a side angle, where here these are just flat, right? Very plain. Really the visual interest is from this top view. Here from the side view still looks really great. Let's go ahead and get it on wrist. And one of the nice things here is, even though you have all this thickness here, down here it's actually quite thin. Which makes it really comfortable, and really, of course, with that soft, pliable, natural rubber, it just gets it in there really comfortably. So, and then the nice thing is these keepers are contoured to match this little kind of dimension here, the concaveness to it. These are fitted really beautifully and very nicely done. So as you can see, it actually does make some bulkiness to this area right here. So it does push out quite a bit, and then you actually see that as you wear it. But man, is this thing comfortable. I mean, I want to say, like, from a purely functional standpoint, this thing is just I'd say a whole nother level of comfort. Just really nice. I mean, as you can see, this stretch here, right? It just offers you so much flexibility. So, I mean, if you're really just all about comfort, you could care less about looks. You want just something that's functional, you can run and gun with. I mean, this Hirsch Extreme, no doubt about it, great choice. So let's go ahead and swap it out now, and let's close with the CrafterBlue. Okay. Okay, get these kind of cleaned up here. Okay, nice snug fit. Really, I love the feel on these. Just the tactile feel on these CrafterBlues is really nice. It just, you can really feel the quality, and it makes you actually expect these to be quite a bit more expensive. Let me take a little bit of that dust and smudginess off there. And as you can see here, definitely very bold with the larger cutouts, and of course the steel hardware on the keeper there. But one nice things is that since this is tapered, you don't have to worry about this banging against your lugs. It's gonna stop there because it's meant to slide here in the 20mm range versus down at the 22, so that's great. Nice side profile, really cleanly done and executed as well on this side. I mean, as far as underneath, you know, the details there, I think really stand out. These cutouts really do, although you have the thickness here for structural rigidity, these cutouts down here, one, they make it more breathable on your wrist, but another nice thing is that they actually do make it more flexible because now there's actually less mass in there, which is really, really nice. And that's one of the things that makes this one also stand out. Also, of course, with the taper, help it actually be much more comfortable on the wrist than the IsoFrane. So, oh man, look, see the way it just flops right into there? You're just able to flex it so easily. So, I think this guy right here feels great on the wrist as well. Of course, it doesn't give you that same articulation that you're going to get here, but because of the large cutouts, I think it definitely does give you a lot more articulation. And then of course with the taper to it, then we did find with the IsoFrane. So really, really great. I mean, bang per buck, I'd say CrafterBlue hands down. And now if you just want to go straight up for street cred, you know, there's probably not a better choice out there than the IsoFrane, a genuine IsoFrane at that. I mean, there's a lot of IsoFrane kind of knockoffs. And some people might even think of the CrafterBlue as kind of a, you know, an IsoFrane homage. But I think there's enough things that are different about this and kind of improved over the IsoFrane. And then especially even in the tone and the color, I think they really chose beautiful shade of orange there, just nice and bright, really pops for the summer. But then if you want something that is just, I think this is definitely more out of the norm, especially if you have like a bigger watch. I mean, this strap on something, you know, is 45mm, or this can hold its own on that. And, you know, big crazy dial with all types of, you know, action going on. A strap like this definitely can hold its own. I've seen these on really great shots on tunas, the Seiko tuna can divers, and you know what? I think it's really nicely suited just because it just has that kind of brutalist design to it that looks really great. Now, as far as on this Armida, I think you know, all of these kind of all looked great. But again, I kind of have to default to just the price per performance is pretty unbeatable with the CrafterBlue. So I'm gonna have to give my choice out of these is that, you know, that it kind of gets my wrist time. I'd say the CrafterBlue definitely takes it, although these are really great options and I'm really glad to have them. But you know what, this wouldn't be a dive watch video without some loom. And you know, the Armida A1 is quite legendary for its loom, and if you haven't seen it yet, you're about to see why. So we'll go ahead and get that pumping for you. Get a quick, as you can see, really beautifully done. I mean, that C3 is just magnificent, just pumping away and blasting there. So what I do now is I actually bring in a little bit of low light source so you can kind of see the way the watch transitions here, and also you're not just seeing how the watch looks in under really bright studio lights. You can kind of see how it's going to look in more natural and low light there. So I think this just looks absolutely gorgeous. It's a great, great tool watch. I mean, there's obviously, it's a very crowded segment, don't get me wrong, but man, I think Armida really knocked it out of the park on this one. I think these strap manufacturers definitely offer something very special and very specific for all of us big dive watch buffs out there. So with that said, you can kind of, you know, let me know what you guys think. What are your experiences with IsoFrane, experiences with Hirsch? You know, they're definitely more well known for their leather straps, and believe me, I have tons of the leather straps, and you know, I can see how they've built a real name for themselves. IsoFrane, definitely a cult classic. And then CrafterBlue, you know, I think they came up with something really cool and something very different. Every release they have, I think, gets a little bit more and more interesting. They actually just recently released their specific, you know, fitted end link version of the strap for the Seiko turtle reissue. So, I mean, they keep coming up with great stuff. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Bye.